They just send some things up, they go along with it, and that's a good boy or girl. And they're born generally into these families. Some of the most telling statements of truth in this system, and who are often quoted, these people, are members of, you might call, the illumined ones, the Illuminati. The alumni from universities, the little clubs there too, are just a lower form of it. In most universities, and some of the higher ones, they are the real thing. You're illumined, alumni, and you keep your mouth shut, and you shake hands, and you wink at each other, and you know how to keep secrets. That's how the system works. You don't tell the profane what you're up to. You lie for each other. Every Mason swears they have to. If someone else is in trouble, you'll lie to get them out of it. But John Dewey, a man who was an ardent socialist and communist, who helped put together the American educational system, talks freely about the problems in the 1930s, when everyone knew at the latter end that there was going to be this war with the fascist countries, the dictatorial countries. They knew it because it was planned that way. But this is what he said about the system in the West just before World War II. The serious threat to our democracy is not the existence of foreign totalitarian states. It is the existence within our own personal attitudes and within our own institutions of conditions of which have given a victory to external authority, discipline, uniformity, and dependence upon the leader, capital L, in foreign countries. The battlefield is also accordingly here within ourselves and our institutions. That was from Dewey's Freedom and Culture, 1939. Now, people will not argue with that, and I found, although he's telling the truth, you see, he's also telling the truth from an illumined point of view. They're very good at telling us the truth. Dewey here wanted to use more scientific indoctrination as they had in the Soviet system, where FDR's wife came back from a visit and said, well, the children aren't so spontaneous on their way to school as American children, but they're so well disciplined and well behaved. That's what Dewey wanted, even more uniformity, and rather than uniformity by external force, the Pavlovian technique of indoctrination, so that you will do it willingly. You'll be a self-censor, you might say. That's what he wanted. But because he said it, many people would agree with him and follow Dewey. That's how clever these guys are. It's like Benjamin Franklin, another member of the illumined ones, never mind his name, which is very revealing as far as coding goes. When he came out of the hall after they'd signed the American Constitution, and this was a Masonic meeting. They had guards on the doors to stop the public getting in, the ones who gave you your freedoms. And he talked about that, of course, and he alluded to it being Masonic himself in his own writings. And when he was asked by the public, what kind of government do we have? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. Now, you can look at that two ways, you see, because the illumined ones always talk. You know, white man would talk with forked tongue. Well, it's true. He knew it would never be kept. It was designed not to be kept. It was designed to be altered as time went on, and as the founders knew, the destiny and the purpose of the United States of America would gradually unfold. He said himself, Franklin and Jefferson, that the Constitution really could only work with an agricultural society, and once they went into industry, it would be totally altered. It would needs to be, and it would happen anyway. So they were well aware it was not for the general public. If it was for the general public, the doors wouldn't have been barred and the windows all blind down. But then again, the Masonic Hall is the temple with no windows. They always pull the blinds. And that symbol of pulling the blinds is for the profane outside, and it's also symbolic of the hoodwink for the individual in society as well. Benjamin Franklin was the Henry Kissinger of the late 1700s. Babylon did not simply disappear. The elite and a system which had worked for such a long time are not vanquished or simply give up all they have and go and get a job at cleaning the streets. The elite always move on, and they take with them the scientists, the social scientists, which in those days were multi-layered priesthoods, which understood human nature through millennia of observation and had perfected it. It was fairly easy in those days when you had a very small minority with knowledge and writing. They were literate and they were organized. It wasn't difficult to rule over masses of people who thought the earth was flat, people who were tremendously superstitious because the priesthoods encouraged superstition. In fact, many of the things that the people feared, the public feared in ancient Middle Eastern areas, were imaginings of the priests who taught it to the people. And of course, when you do that, you always teach them that those people will need you, the priests, to keep you safe. And this has to do with the system we live in today, because Mystery Babylon never died. It simply jumped around from nation to nation, really building up an empire in each one, furthering the goal through amalgamation and conquest of one singular system, their system, into what's coming about as world empire. And their signs and symbols are all around you. You're born into it. It's everywhere. You see them in all the major logos of the big companies, the big corporations. And your average Mason hasn't a clue either. They're as ignorant as the people they pretend they're above. But the very high ones are taught these sciences. Life begins at 40, the 40th degree. Most Masons don't know there's anything above the 33rd. And they are in the dark as well. So how does this system work? Well, we should remember that Karl Marx, another member of this Illuminist organization, was taught everything that he knew. In fact, most of his writings were given to him by a higher priesthood. He was really a hack journalist that was kicked out of Germany, put up by the Rothschilds in London to put forth the Communist Manifesto. And Engels was way more or further ahead of him in the understanding of this science, the dialectic. It's very similar to the Zulu tactic of war. And the Zulu are a fascinating people who were given their culture and a special breeding program to make them very tall. They killed off all the ones who were small. And Chaka the Zulu, of course, was approached by white men. I'm sure he was taught the science of selective breeding. However, the Zulus, when they attacked an enemy, used what they called the horn technique. So people saw the head coming towards them of the bull, and they neglected to see the thinner horns gradually move out around them, and eventually you'd be totally encompassed. That's really the system that we're living in. We neglect so much in our lives because we're not taught to be on the lookout by our parents. When we're born into this system, we have needs, basic needs, which have always been understood. These were observed thousands and thousands of years ago, maybe even millions of years ago. Well-known sciences, always kept secretive from the public because the public are the makers of all wealth for the elite. Labor is the only thing which makes anything in this particular type of economic system. Now, there are many economic systems, or at least there were many economic systems. The New World Order, at least this phase of it, is trying to extinguish all other types. In some cultures, it would seem ridiculous to try and create and accumulate wealth and excess. It would have no purpose. In this Babylonian type system, the accumulation of wealth, one should teach the people what wealth is, because wealth can be anything. No, it must be the elite's idea, which is accepted, must be accepted by the public, so that they will also work for it. Then it can be taxed back from them, because all it does is a representation of labor. And Marx put this down, of course, in his theories on communism, and it was true. However, they run both sides of everything, because just like the horns of the bull, of the Zulu attack, it depends on two horns, the dialectic, while you're transfixed on the center, what you think is the problem. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's one of the prime teachings of the higher mysteries. Everything that's thought, done, said has a reaction, an opposite reaction as well. It's almost a law of nature. We are born into a system with needs which are survival needs, basically. We need sleep, food, clothing, warmth, shelter. We have to be protected. However, we are born into a system of religion. In the West, it was Christianity and Judaism. And in the holy books of all the world, including Christianity and Judaism, you have the rules of the esoteric written down for the elite to understand. and follow, because man must work. And we take it from the teachings we've had and the culture that our parents had and grandparents had. We take it for granted that that means you go out and you do something in the system to earn money to buy the things you need. So money is controlled, money was introduced. There are economic systems and structures which never use money, and many more so in the past. But everyone in an economic system, even those other ones which don't use money, still require something from every individual for the maintenance of everyone in a tribe. You find even in the feudal system, the old feudal system as opposed to the new one which has been implemented today. In the old system, you would become a serf. That would be your position in life would be reinforced by the religion you were given,